They say the cruelest weapon is not a blade, but a lie whispered into the ears of those you love most. For 23 years, Chief Emmanuel Okafor carried a secret heavier than any burden a father should bear. From a distance, he watched his children grow, paid for their meals, their books, and their dreams. Yet, when they thought of him, they saw only a man who had abandoned them. This is the story of how lies created hatred, how truth shattered deception, and how a broken family found its way back to love. The Harmattan wind swept dust across the compound of an old house in Surulere, Lagos, where Chief Emmanuel sat alone on his veranda. At 72, his once strong body had grown frail, his hands trembling as he held his walking stick. The house that once echoed with laughter now knew only silence. There was a time when Adaeze and Chukwuma filled those corridors with life, laughing, running, dreaming freely. But that was before the divorce, before the lies, before everything fell apart. Across town, Adaeze Okafor Williams sat in her office in Victoria Island. At 35, she was one of Nigeria's youngest senior advocates, respected in courtrooms from Lagos to Abuja. Her walls were lined with certificates from the University of Lagos, where she had graduated with first-class honors. Her brother, Chukwuma, was equally accomplished. At 33, he was a consultant cardiothoracic surgeon at Lagos University Teaching Hospital, known for his skill and dedication. They had wealth, influence, and success, but they shared something else, a deep resentment for the man they called their father. He never cared, Adaeze would say. While we suffered, he lived his life. Mama sacrificed everything for us. Their mother, Mrs. Ngozi Okafor, had ensured they believed that story. Known in church circles as the woman who raised her children alone, she lived comfortably in a duplex in Lekki, funded by her children's success. But the truth was different. Their marriage had ended not because Emmanuel failed, but because Ngozi had been unfaithful. When Emmanuel filed for divorce, she struck back, not with facts, but with lies. He abandoned us, she told her young children. He doesn't love you anymore. The children believed her, and with every passing year, Ngozi strengthened that belief. Whenever Emmanuel paid their fees, rent, and upkeep, she claimed the money came from her struggles, loans, or church support. What the children never knew was that every naira came from their father. Through his lawyer, Emmanuel transferred money monthly to Ngozi's account. He paid their school fees from primary school to university, covered rent, textbooks, and upkeep. He did it quietly, believing that one day they would understand. That day did not come until many years later. At the University of Lagos, Adaeze studied law and Chukwuma studied medicine. Their mother celebrated publicly, telling everyone how God had helped her raise her children despite being abandoned. Behind the scenes, Emmanuel's money paid everything. As the years passed, the siblings grew more successful and more distant from their father. Emmanuel, meanwhile, followed their lives from afar. He attended Adaeze's competitions in disguise, watched Chukwuma's ceremonies from a distance, and collected newspaper clippings of their achievements in a scrapbook. After the divorce, his business collapsed. He lost his wealth and lived quietly in the old Surulere house, surviving on a small pension. His health worsened with age, and loneliness became his constant companion. Everything changed in 2025. During a court case, Adaeze met an elderly lawyer who mentioned Emmanuel's efforts to secure educational arrangements for his children years earlier. Confused, she began investigating. The truth shocked her. Every payment, school fees, rent, allowances had come from her father. She and Chukwuma confronted their mother. Faced with evidence, Ngozi confessed. The siblings realized they had spent over 20 years hating the wrong person. They searched for their father and found him living in poverty in Surulere. When they saw him, frail and aged, they broke down in tears. "Daddy, "We're sorry," Chukwuma whispered. For the first time in decades, father and children embraced. The months that followed were filled with healing and painful conversations. Emmanuel told them everything about the divorce, the financial support, and the years of silence. Adaeze and Chukwuma moved him into a comfortable apartment, ensured he received proper medical care, and spent time with him trying to make up for lost years. Meanwhile, Ngozi faced the consequences of her lies. Her children withdrew emotionally and financially. The luxury she once enjoyed disappeared, and she was forced to live a modest life. Eventually, she sought forgiveness. Emmanuel forgave her, though the scars remained. Years later, the family gathered to celebrate Emmanuel's 75th birthday, a moment of reunion, forgiveness, and gratitude. 5 years after that, Emmanuel passed away peacefully at 80. At his funeral, Adaeze spoke with tears in her eyes. "My father taught me that real love doesn't need applause. It works quietly, in sacrifice and silence." In his final letter to her, Emmanuel wrote of love, integrity, and truth. Adaeze preserved the letter in his scrapbook so future generations would know the story of a father who loved from the shadows. And in his small flat in Ikeja, Ngozi sat alone, finally understanding that the price of lies is always higher than the cost of truth.